Good morning, dear students. Today we shall discuss the magnetic and color properties of coordination compounds based on crystal field theory. Let us see how the crystal field theory explains the magnetic properties and color properties of the coordination compounds. First, let us study the magnetic properties of coordination compounds based on the crystal field theory. I have written here two compounds. One is hexaamine cobalt 3 ion. The other compound is hexafluoro cobaltate 3 ion. Cobaltate 3 ion. Now the first compound, it is diamagnetic in nature. Second compound, that is hexafluoro cobaltate 3 ion, is paramagnetic in nature. Let us see whether this is diamagnetic and this is paramagnetic in nature. Cobalt with atomic number 27 has got its outermost electronic configuration as 3d7 4s2 or 4s2 3d7. The oxidation number of cobalt in both these complex ions is +3. That means it has lost 3 electrons, 2 from 4s, 1 from 3d. Therefore, it has got now the electronic configuration as 3d6 4s 0. So it has got 6 electrons in its 3D subshell. Now let us see the first complex ion, hexamine cobalt 3 ion. So 6 electrons are there. Now you know ammonia is a strong ligand. Therefore, the distribution of electrons takes place like this. And remember here, both these are octahedral complexes, complex ions. Both these are octahedral complex ions. And you have learned in octahedral field, the splitting is like this. The splitting up of d orbitals is like this. You learned already. P2G is dxy, dyz, dzx orbitals, and Eg orbitals, dx square minus y square, dz square orbitals, and so on. Now, ammonia is a strong ligand. Therefore, there are 6 electrons now. Let me distribute those 6 electrons like this. 1, 2, 3. Now sparing starts. 4, 5, 6. Why the pairing is starting here? Ammonia is a strong ligand. In other words, the ligand, the electrons in this cannot go from lower energy level to the higher energy level because here the crystal field stabilization is more than the pairing energy. In other words, the pairing energy is less, therefore the pairing is taking place. So you are noticing here, when I distribute the electrons, there are no unpaired electrons here. There are no unpaired electrons. So therefore, this complex ion is diamagnetic in nature. And what is the energy here? You know, I said already, this is minus 4 dq and this is plus 4 dq. So here there are 6 electrons. 6 4s are 24. Therefore, it is minus 24 dq. Is it okay? Now come to this complex ion. Once again there are 6 electrons. Now I will distribute those electrons like this. 1, 2, 3. Now 4th electron goes to the Eg energy level. 4, 5. Then pairing starts. 6. Is it okay? Why the electrons are going after filling 1 electron each from P2G, then the electrons are going to Eg level. Why? Because here the crystal field stabilization energy is less than is less than pairing energy. In other words, pairing energy is more than what? The crystal field stabilization energy, and hence the fourth electron is going above, then fourth, fifth, then once again we come back to go pair this sixth electron. So you are noticing here, in case of this hexafluorocobaltate 3 ion, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 unpaired electrons. Therefore, it is said to be paramagnetic in nature. Paramagnetic in nature. And how many, what is the crystal field stabilization energy here? So it is minus 4 dq plus 6 dq. So calculate now. So 4 electrons are there. 4 4s are 16, minus 16 it is, plus 2 electrons are there, 12 it is. So minus 16 plus 12 equal to minus 4 dq is the crystal field stabilization energy in case of hexafluorocobaltate 3 ion. So you are noticing, since this fluoride ion is a weak ligand, we are noticing that the crystal field stabilization energy is minus 4 dq. So when you observe these two compounds, I said this is diamagnetic and this is paramagnetic, and it has got this hexamine cobalt 3 ion, complex ion, has got more crystal field stabilization energy than hexafluorocobaltate 3 ion. Because of this more crystal field stabilization energy, hexamine cobalt 3 ion is more stable than hexafluorocobaltate 3 complex ion. So this is how the crystal field theory explains the magnetic properties of the coordination compounds. Now next, let us see how the crystal field theory explains the color formation of the coordination compounds. Most of the coordination compounds are colored compounds. You know very well, you have studied in your lower levels, that is why any compound appears colored. You say immediately that it is because of the presence of unpaired electron. Fine. So the color formation of any compound depends upon the presence of unpaired electron, and secondly it is due to the excitation of those unpaired electrons from a lower energy level to the higher energy level by absorbing radiation from the sunlight. Now let us explain with the help of the crystal field theory the color formation of the coordination compounds. To explain this, I will take one compound, the coordination compound. Hexaquo titanium 3 ion. Hexaquo titanium 3 ion. Titanium atomic number is 22 and its electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2. So I am writing the outermost electronic configuration 4s2, 3d2. The oxidation number of this titanium ion is +3. So it has lost 3 electrons and becomes 3d1. So 2 electrons from this 4s, 1 electron from this 3d. So totally 3 electrons are lost. Now the titanium +3 ion has got 1 electron in a 3d subshell. This is also octahedral complex. In octahedral complex, once again, the splitting is like this. So P2G orbitals, barycenter, and these are EG orbitals. Right. Now you are noticing here, there is only 1 electron. So I will write 1 electron here. So when we place this hexaquo titanium 3 ion, that complex ion, in sunlight, it absorbs from the sunlight yellow and green rays. Followed what I said? They are absorbing a radiation. Which radiations? Yellow and green radiations from the sunlight by absorbing a frequency of radiation 5000 Armstrong units. 5000 Armstrong units. I repeat this. When we place this compound in the sunlight, it is absorbing which radiations? Green and yellow radiations at 5000 Armstrong units. So when it absorbs the energy, it promotes the single electron from T2G energy level to the EG energy level. So that electron I will write here. Now this excited electron cannot stay there in the higher energy level for a longer time, and it tries to come down to the lower energy level. Yes, it tries to come down to the lower energy level by emitting a radiation of frequency h nu. So whatever radiation it has absorbed at 5000 Armstrong units, it emits once again while coming back to this ground state energy level. So that emitted radiation is purple in color. Therefore, in the lab, if you see the titanium +3 compound, for example, the hexa-aquo titanium 3 compound, it is purple in color. It is because the excited electron, while coming back to the ground state energy level, emits the complementary color of the yellow and green radiation. So the complementary color of yellow and green is purple color. Now, why this? Okay, I said once it absorbs the energy, it goes to this higher energy level. Now, the crystal field stabilization energy in case of the octahedral complex, is found to be equal to the energy that is required to promote this single electron from lower energy level to the higher energy level. Followed what I said? See, the radiation that it has absorbed, energy equal to the frequency of the radiation is how much, or the wavelength is how much? 5000 Armstrong unit. I will use this equation, E is equal to h nu, where nu is equal to c by lambda. Is it okay? E is equal to h, then c by lambda. So by substituting this lambda, 5000 Armstrong units, and substituting the value of c, velocity of light, and substituting this Planck, the h constant value, Planck's constant. So we write this is equal to 240 kilojoules per mole. Followed what I said? When I substitute the value 5000 Armstrong units and the value of h and c, which are constant, we get the value of 240 kilojoules per mole. And this energy is equal to the crystal field stabilization energy of the octahedral complex, this octahedral complex. That's why this electron is getting promoted to the higher energy level. Is it okay? So why this energy is promoted to this higher energy level? It is because, so whatever the energy that is absorbed from the sunlight is equal to the crystal field stabilization energy. Is it okay? So the excitation of electron from one energy level to the another energy level is mainly responsible for the color formation of the coordination compounds. So the crystal field theory explains very neatly by taking the complex hexa-aquo titanium 3 complex ion. It is purple in color because of the reasons I have explained. Fine. Now, after studying this magnetic and color properties of the coordination compounds, now let us study the magnetic susceptibility. Magnetic susceptibility. Magnetic susceptibility. What is magnetic susceptibility? It is denoted by K, kappa, right? So when we place a coordination compound in the presence of the magnetic field, the amount of magnetic field that is absorbed, in other words, the ability of the coordination compound to absorb the magnetic field, to accept that magnetic field, is called as magnetic susceptibility of that coordination compound. I repeat this definition. The magnetic susceptibility is, it is the ability of the coordination compound to accept magnetism when placed in magnetic field. Now, why we are interested in this magnetic susceptibility? Once you know the magnetic susceptibility of a coordination compound, you can calculate the magnetic moment mu. The magnetic moment mu. Once you calculate the magnetic moment mu, you can calculate the number of unpaired electrons present in a coordination compound. Once you come to know that the number of unpaired electrons present in the coordination compound, you can predict its hybridization and you can predict its geometry also. Is it okay? So now let us study a method that is used to calculate the magnetic susceptibility of a coordination compound. That method is called as Gauss method. So determination of magnetic susceptibility by which method? Gauss method. Now in this method, there will be a Gauss tube. I am drawing a rough diagram. This is a Gauss tube. There is a graduated mark there. Is it okay? Now in this Gauss tube, the coordination compound which is finely powdered is filled uniformly. Followed what I said? In this Gauss tube, the finely powdered coordination compound is filled uniformly. That is important. There should not be any air gap. If there is any air gap, the absorption of the magnetic field by this coordination compound may not be uniform. Therefore, see that it is properly filled. There should not be any air gap. So, I have filled the finely powdered coordination compound in this Gauss tube up to the graduation mark. Then this Gauss tube is suspended between two magnetic poles. I write it as north and south, and there will be coils here to introduce the magnetic field. So it is suspended between the magnetic poles, and this is connected to the analytical balance. There will be a scale here and there will be weights here. Rough diagram I have drawn. This is completely an analytical balance. So this is a scale, right? Now look. So I have suspended Gauss tube between the two poles of a magnet, and in this Gauss tube, the finely powdered coordination compound is filled up to the graduation mark, and it is connected to the analytical balance. Take its empty weight. Before the magnetic field is switched on, you take its empty weight. So now I will write that empty weight as M1. So M1 is the empty weight of this guide tube with the coordination compound, right, in the absence of magnetic field. Now you switch on the magnetic field. Once you switch on the magnetic field, if this coordination compound is paramagnetic in nature, it will be attracted by the magnetic field. It will be attracted by the magnetic field. If it is diamagnetic in nature, it will be repelled by the magnetic field. That means if it is paramagnetic, it comes down. If it is diamagnetic, it goes above. So there will be a changes in its mass. Is it okay? That mass, I will write it as M2. Is it okay? So when the field is switched on, is it okay? If the complex is paramagnetic in nature, it is drawn, it is attracted by the magnetic field, it comes down. So when it comes down, here this balance, here this weights goes little bit above. So to balance this, to bring it to the zero level, this marker, you have to add some more weights. You have to add some more weights and bring it to the zero level. Suppose if this complex is diamagnetic, it is repelled by the magnetic field, it goes above. When it goes above, this pan comes down. So when it comes down, you have to remove some weights so that once again this pointer comes to the zero level. So when you switch on the magnetic field, there will be a change in the mass of this U2, which is containing the coordination compound. That I have written it as M2. So two weights we will take. In the absence of magnetic field, we take its weight. In the presence of magnetic field, we take its weight. So it is M2. Now delta M I will write is equal to change in mass. Change in mass. So once you calculate what is the change in mass of this coordination compound, by using the equation delta M is equal to half KH square A, we can calculate what is K, that is kappa, the magnetic susceptibility of this coordination compound. So by using this delta M is equal to half KH square A, we can calculate what? The kappa, magnetic susceptibility. So K is equal to 2 delta M divided by H square A. So what is this H? The strength of the magnetic field that you applied, you know it. How much magnetic field you applied. What is this A? It is the cross-sectional area of the U2. So by substituting all these values, delta M and strength of the magnetic field in Oersted it is. So you put that value and cross-sectional area of the U2. So you calculate what? K, that is magnetic susceptibility. Once you calculate the magnetic susceptibility, we will calculate magnetic susceptibility per gram, chi g, not xg it is chi g. So magnetic susceptibility per gram is calculated by dividing this magnetic susceptibility with the density of the coordination compound. Followed? So we get magnetic susceptibility per gram by dividing this magnetic susceptibility with the density of the coordination compound. Then once you calculate magnetic susceptibility per gram, you can calculate now chi m, magnetic susceptibility per mole. Magnetic susceptibility per mole by multiplying this chi g, magnetic susceptibility per gram, with the molecular mass of the coordination compound. So you get magnetic susceptibility per mole by multiplying this chi g with what? The m, molecular mass of the coordination compound. Once you calculate this chi m, the magnetic susceptibility per mole, you can calculate the magnetic moment mu by using this equation. Mu is equal to 2.828 square root of chi m into T. Magnetic moment, right? By using this equation 2.828 square root chi m into T. The T is what? Absolute temperature at which you have carried out this Gauss method experiment. So once you calculate what is magnetic moment mu, you can predict the number of unpaired electrons. So what is magnetic moment mu? It is the magnetism contributed by the spin of electron. Followed what I said in simple? Magnetic moment mu is nothing but the magnetism contributed by the spin of electron. So once you know the magnetic moment, you can calculate how many unpaired electrons are there. Based on the number of unpaired electrons, you can predict, you can write the geometry and hybridization of that coordination compound. You know very well, you have studied to calculate the number of electrons, you have used this equation. Square root of n into n plus 2. N is number of electrons. Suppose number of unpaired electrons. Now if I write number of unpaired electron as 1 plus 2 square root of how much it is? Square root of 3. Square root of 3 is nothing but 1.7 change it is. 1.72, 1.73. Now, in our Gauss method, if you get the value mu is equal to, for example, 173, what does it mean? The coordination compound that is under experiment contains one unpaired electron. Followed this? So, depending upon the value of this mu, we will calculate the number of unpaired electrons. So, dear students, today you have learned the magnetic properties of the coordination compounds and color of the coordination compounds based on crystal field theory. And finally, we learned what? The magnetic susceptibility and its determination by Gauss method. I feel the whatever I taught today is clear to you. May God bless you, and tomorrow we shall meet with new aspect of this coordination compound number 2. Thank you very much.